What's up, guys? You may have noticed I got some water in my belt, so I'm fixing that issue. The major leak is this big rubber boot. This is the back side of the belt, back plate, right? This big rubber boot is supposed to seal up against the crankcase. What was holding it on there was a zip tie that's mostly been worn through by crap and was about to break, wasn't broken yet, and it was on there crooked. So a good coat of Ultra Black around this surface and a good coat of Ultra Black around this surface will help that leak. And then there's a seal right here, this blue seal. That's where it seals where this goes. This sits in there. Nice bead of Ultra Black in there. That'll be good to go. Now, as for this seal, a lot of people say it also leaks. You can look at mine and tell that it was making a pretty decent seal. I have a new one I'm going to put on there. And I think I'm going to leave it alone because it was making a good seal. You can see where it was sealing all the way around. A lot of people put clear silicone in there because they say it peels off easy enough, but I don't want to mess with fighting to get my belt on and off. I like to be able to change the belt on the side of the trail very quickly. Pro tip for getting off your primary, if you have a razor puller and you grind down the tip of it, see how that's all grinded like so, make it skinnier, it works fine for a primary on the four-wheelers too. So instead of buying another puller, I just ground it down so it fits all the way through the primary into the crankshaft and pop the primary off, no problem. The best way to grind it down is to put that thing in a drill, spin it backwards against a grinder. Yep, so I'm going to put that all back together and it'll be waterproof now. Here's a nice look at the engine, a single cylinder 570. You see how far apart it is from the transmission? It's actually separated by that frame piece. And there's your massive chain drive, stupid ass transmission. You can see the breather line for the transmission. All kinds of good stuff going on here, right? This right here, this big old line, is your crankcase breather. Doesn't feel like super high quality, does it? And also it's kind of cracked up here where it's going in there at an angle. So that's going to be fixed right now too. But yep, just more progress being made on this turd. There's the battery that already barely works. Stupid ass front diff. But the lift kit, man, it really woke this thing up. There's a better view of the lift kit in the back. Oh yeah. In Jerry. Alright, did a little bit of waterproofing, snorkeled my intake, pulled off the belt housing and sealed that up, greased some connectors, and the exhaust is idling underwater just fine now. We're going to see if the belt stays dry. Yep. R&D over here. What's up, guys? A little update on the Sportsman after a day of complete abuse at Holopal. The first issue we had was this cup broke in half. You see how it's broken in half, and then that fell out, and then the axle bounced around and dinged up everything around it. But kind of ugly, but I don't think it did any real damage. Other than that, the bike did great. That didn't happen until about halfway through the day, so then I was three-wheel drive. Front diff pulled really well, locker worked. Oh, I did burn the Polaris winch up, but it was already kind of screwed up by the previous owner. Put a Harbor Freight winch in there now. The snorkel setup worked great. Never got my belt wet at all. It turned these tires extremely well, even without the clutch kit. Went through some pretty nasty mud. Got stuck a couple times, mostly because of the clearance under the center issue. But the lift kit really helped with the ground clearance a lot. They said it's a 2-inch lift, but you can tell it's more like a 3-inch lift, just because of the way these springs are. But this axle is about to break, and I don't know why that boot came off like that. It could be because this axle got so hot because it was getting worked really hard, pushing the whole bike back, because I was one-wheel drive on the way back, essentially. But what you can see is how close the balls are to coming out of the cup. Which is interesting, right? Because with some suspension designs, as the wheel goes down, the balls actually slide into the cup, but that is obviously not the case with the Sportsman. So the axle is a little too short, basically, for this lift, and that's because of the relationship between where the A-arm mounts, where the cup is, and the suspension geometry. So, yeah. Gonna have to figure that out, because I'm sure that is the reason the other cup broke. The balls should not be that close to the edge of the cup at all. So I've got 2 new axles coming. I'm gonna test those out, see if I break any of those, and if not, I might have to go with a double plunging axle like a Cobra, because travel seems to be an issue on this bike. It's not really an issue on the Hondas, but it did great. Tons of ground clearance, good power, did some pretty decent wheelies and stuff. Just gotta fix the axle issue, which I knew was gonna be an issue. Even if you don't lift these bikes, you probably would still break axles on these tires if you drive it as hard as I did. But that's why we do testing.